Hello, and welcome to another fully live episode of Hacking with Friends. My name is Kody Kinzie. I am a security researcher at Varonis, and today I'm going to be taking your hacker related questions as I also talk about the recent LayerOne Conference. So, you may notice that we're running a little bit late today, and I look like I am being held hostage again. However, that's mostly because this computer, I know I've said it before, is on its last legs. It's doing that angry whooshing thing that Macs do sometimes when they just turn themselves off and get very angry. So hopefully we make it through the stream. This is the second time I've tried to set up, but we'll see what we can do. So I just attended the LayerOne Conference on Saturday and Sunday, and I kind of wish it was more days because it was a very relaxed, very fun conference where I got to meet tons of people. So if any of you were at the LayerOne Conference, please let me know because I met a lot of you there. And frankly, it was a lot of fun. And I haven't been for several years. I did the online version. And then prior to that, I'd been there, I think maybe 2019. But yeah, it had been a while and I really, really enjoyed it. And we got to do a lot of cool stuff there. So I'm going to talk about some of the cool things we did at the conference. I'm also going to talk about LayerOne in general because it was one of those conferences that wasn't completely on my radar initially, and being in Los Angeles and being exposed to the people who are around Null Space Labs kind of raised my awareness because Null Space Labs, LayerOne, there's a lot of overlap there. In fact, the after party for LayerOne was held at Null Space Labs. So those two groups of people definitely have a lot of stuff in common. So also, hello, I see you. I see you in the chat. We'll get to WPA3 at some point, I promise. Yeah, so this is LayerOne Conference. If you haven't heard of it before, then it's definitely worth checking out in Pasadena, California. The reason that I like it is it's the kind of mix of people you would kind of get at DEF CON, but on a much more local scale. So if you're around Southern California, even if that's like San Diego or like San Francisco, it's one of those conferences where you can meet a lot of people who you'll see over and over again at local conferences and maybe could do something cool. I found a lot of cool people who had interesting ideas that I wanted to maybe collaborate with on. And by going and teaching a little bit about what you know, I often find that you meet people who are really excellent and doing some very cool things at these sorts of conferences. So on the events and schedule, we were in the hardware hacking village, which was fantastic. The LayerOne badge this year was electronic. I'm trying to find a picture of it. I think this is going back in time. But the LayerOne badge this year was electronic. It was a fidget spinner, and it sure was cool. I think, is there a picture on the GitHub? Let's see. Let's find out. No, of course not. All right. Well, I have pictures. Don't worry. I will share it. So the fact that they chose a form factor that was a fidget spinner particularly appealed to me, and I think a lot of other conference goers. I got some feedback on Twitter that several people really enjoyed like learning how to do bad USB hacking and also some of the Wi-Fi self-defense stuff that we were teaching at our little part of the village. And here we go. So this is the LayerOne badge. You can see L1. And in the center here, there is a place to put a like little ball bearing fidget spinner kind of thing. And one of these, I think this one right here, is actually a Hall effect sensor, which means it can measure a magnet. So what happens is when you spin this, there's apparently a little magnet in one of the ball bearing things that allows it to spin. And as it goes over the top, it registers a spin and calculates how fast you're spinning it. Now, this little layer of LEDs here is one of those like persistence of vision things where when you spin it, it actually creates a little screen as it spins. And it's able to calculate how fast the badge is spinning. Now, there's a bunch of other demos and cool stuff you can do with it, but really the fact that like as you spin the badge, like with a as you spin the fidget spinner, it calculates the RPMs and displays it on like a persistence of vision, like little display. That to me was incredible. It was really, really cool to see how the badge came together and how the idea of the fidget spinner could be expanded into a screen and then also into something that's actually able to calculate how fast it's spinning. So of course our team took advantage of that and tried to make it go as fast as possible. And it was not necessarily eye safe, but it was a very, very cool electronic badge this year. So if you didn't check out the LayerOne badge, and if you're a fan of fidget spinners, then definitely something worth checking out. And I'm sure there's a lot more videos, but we'll show that off. So We were repping security forward and talking about all the cool stuff that we do. And we had lots of content creators, including Davis DeWitt, who is we were hanging out with last night as well. And I have a little bit more to report on that because we were doing some cool hacker stuff last night that we came up with a little bit before the conference. So actually, I'm not going to talk about Laura yet, but I just wanted to say if you met any of us, if you enjoyed our classes, if you want to see more, then please let us know. It was really cool to have everybody stop by the booth and give us feedback. And I think we did 2 Wi-Fi self-defense classes, we did 3 soldering classes, we did a bad USB attack, and then we also did a class on beginning LoRa. Like, how do you use like LoRa technology for hacking, or like what can you do with it? Oh, and I forgot, I also had a talk. So I got to do a talk on microcontroller education, and I was running a little late for my talk, but I got like an Uber and I was on my way, and then the guy just put on like easy listening music and just went so slow. And he also did not speak English. So when I asked him if we could hurry up, he just kind of shook his head and didn't want to hear. So I was 10 minutes late to my own talk, which was apparently normal by LayerOne standards. So I was thought I was pretty much fitting in. But I did a talk that was mostly discussing how, if you're interested in teaching with microcontrollers, you can get started, what are good solid microcontrollers to work with, and how to work through like getting grant funding or being able to get the kind of money that you need to do these outreach programs without having to front the entire bill yourself or have the students in your classes have to pay the money up front. So a lot of people who want to teach cybersecurity, like they have a very low budget and they're looking for projects that make it easy for them to, well, have like a couple $100s from a grant really go far with a large group of kids, and maybe teach them something really cool that's more hands-on than what people usually are able to teach. That's what my talk was about, and I got to connect with a bunch of educators, a bunch of people who are making hacker spaces or maker spaces in their local areas. And it surprised me. Like there were a lot of people who were out there doing great things who needed that information. So if you came to my talk or if you saw it, it'll be published. I think Datagram, the organizer of Layer One, said that it would be published maybe like first week of June, if we're lucky. So check that out. I thought the talk went really well, aside from the fact that I'm out of breath for the first part of it because I ran through the building. But yeah, I was very proud to give that talk. A lot of great educators came up and talked to me and told me like what their experience had been teaching cybersecurity. And it was cool. I really enjoyed it. So thank you if you attended that. And if you didn't, then there'll be another opportunity to see that talk coming up. And if you are somebody who is like a teacher or an educator or somebody who's trying to like create a maker space or a hacker space in your area, definitely connect with me. It was really cool to speak with some of you and identifying some of the common struggles we've had in getting people engaged with this sort of thing, or just making sure that, venues are comfortable with us teaching hacking and other things in a hands-on fashion. That was great. So yeah, really, really enjoyed it. Hello, Tai Kwang Gong. It's good to see you. And of course, also SAQ, I can't ignore you, of course. I was gonna say, buy Nullbyte back. Yes. So I'm not sure if I can buy it back directly. However, I think I can put some content on there. And last night I was working on some content that could be one of our first new Nullbyte episodes. So I don't, there's still a couple things to work out, I think, but it looks as though I might have a little bit of a preview of some cool stuff that I've been working on. And I just wanted to give a little bit of a sneak peek here. So let me see if I can share the right one, because I am both the editor and um, the star. This is going to be like you're trapped in a Zoom call with me. Okay, that's not right. That's not the right one. I didn't want to share that one. Sorry. It's going to be this one. Um, okay, that is the right one. Cool. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about also our friend Angelina, who I picked a terrible photo of, but here we go. Angelina did a talk on satellite OSINT. So I wasn't the only one who did a talk. We also got to hear from Angelina and see a lot of really great stuff. She was talking about in terms of identifying like jamming. Oh yeah, that was one of the things she talked about recently, and then also just generally getting information on satellites that you want to maybe not hack into, but at least be able to predict when it's going to be overhead and maybe like take down some signals. She also talked about how to receive those signals, which I thought was really cool. And yeah, also going to be coming out probably first or second week of June. So stay tuned for Angelina's talk as well. Um, so one thing that was extremely popular at the conference was the sticker exchange. I did not expect this to be so popular, and this is like kind of a European conference idea. Like I see this at C3. I don't really see it at a lot of other conferences, but I was like, all right, so this year's sticker exchange, we lit it up, we made it really pretty, and I tossed in a bunch of really good stickers. And I have to say, the stickers that other people tossed into this box were actually incredible. I got some of the cutest, most adorable, weirdest, and sometimes most offensive hacking stickers that I've ever gotten. So if you've ever considered doing a sticker exchange, we found this to be amazing. And as you can see, we tried to make our fun little booth like as engaging and interesting for people to come over and talk to us about as possible. Definitely very blinky, definitely very bright. And the sticker exchange in particular, I thought was one of my favorite. I have actually the result of the sticker exchange here, and looking through it, there's like they're so cute. There's these little, I don't, okay, let me risk the screen sharing for a second. There's these little tiny dumpster fire stickers that came out of it that are probably my favorite. They're so adorable. So thank you to everybody who put good stuff in the sticker exchange. We had like tons of free stickers we were giving out as well, but the sticker exchange ended up being, I think, my favorite part of the conference because it was way cuter and way better of a result than I expected. All right, so yes, you can see everybody digging through. I put a lot of like NSA stickers that I got from RSAC into this as bait, and it worked. Like I got a bunch. Like people took the like federal stickers and like exchanged very like punk hacker stickers, which I definitely appreciated. So yeah, love the results. And then probably one of my favorite workshops. This is a 3D printing electronics workshop that allows people to just come and make their own little hex leaf designs. So we had all different types of designs. The round one, I think, was my favorite. But the result here was people were able to sit down with us, hang out, build this beautiful hexlight display, and it took about like 45 minutes, I would say, to finish this up. There's a little bit of like fixing and things like that to make it work better. But in general, I don't really think that even a beginner would have much of a hard time putting one of these together. So love that the like Hex Leaf workshop. I thought that was super fun to connect with people while doing that. And one of our most excited people built one of these and had an amazing time doing it. So yeah, like if you're an educator, if you're somebody who is doing maker spaces or whatnot, and you want a good suggestion, I just wanted to showcase this one because I mentioned it in my talk as being one that people really seem to enjoy. And the materials for this are crazy cheap. It was amazing. The little microcontroller that runs everything that you can see right here, that guy is maybe like $3. And then this is just 3D printed plastic, all of it. And then the LED strip is I think I had to rush them, so it was like $16 for like a 16-foot strip of them that I just cut up and used for several people. So this was a super super cheap, very fun project. It looks great as well, I have to say, and probably my favorite workshop I did at the conference. Here is the LayerOne badge in action. As I said, it creates that like cool screen from spinning, and we tried to use our friend Davis's air cannon to bleed some air off and get it spinning at a super high RPM. Looks like I can't quite read it, but it's going fast. Believe me, it's going fast. It's fast enough that I was worried that the LEDs might fly off and become like an eye hazard. So I shut this down after a minute. But as you can see, the full badge is pretty big. Like you can break your badge out so that it is that shorter kind of segment, but the full badge still spins and is weighted pretty well. So I chose to keep mine intact. I really thought that the LayerOne badge was incredibly cool this year, and that of all the stuff they could have done, a fidget spinner was awesome. And then finally, Hammer Jenga. So if you've never played Hammer Jenga, this is a hacker. This is a hacker kind of sport where you try to not have that happen, basically. Uh, it's Jenga with hammers. It's kind of self-documenting. There's a couple other rules, but everybody got together after the conference at LayerOne to play Hammer Jenga. And our team got all the way to the finals. This is when we lost, actually, and the winner right there got a free ticket to next year's conference. And again, I have to give a shout out to LayerOne, or sorry, to Null Space Labs for hosting the LayerOne after party. Everybody getting together, doing hacker stuff was incredibly fun and cool. And the atmosphere they created was absolutely spot on. So yeah, that was, if you're looking for a great conference to check out next year, then I absolutely recommend it. Immediately after that, I tried to relax a little bit, but not only is the new symbol for the trains in LA, or at least some of them, I think this is for like train awareness, so you don't get hit with it. But like the pair, like it just looks like a kind of a surveillance thing. The first thing that happened to me was this drone crashed into a palm tree, flew over, almost hit me, and then cut every single person that tried to pick it up. I had to give this guy a band-aid because he cut himself pretty badly. Not my drone, by the way, just a random drone that crashed almost into me later that day. And then finally, I think this is the fun little preview I get to do. Um, I got to work with our friend Davis, who was at the booth with us, on what could be the next Nullbyte episode. So I don't want to give too much away, but we have been using LoRa boards pretty frequently to do some experiments to see like what kind of long range stuff we can get away with by maybe taking an idea and extending it super far. So one of my ideas, and one idea that Davis and I tossed around, was what if we were able to do like a speed light, like a remote flash for a camera from super far away. Not only is that a cool example of how far it can go, and it's very obvious because you can see when you pop the speed light from really far away, but you could also do like a photo shoot or something where it would be really difficult to sync like a speed light and a camera from like a mile away, right? If you have like either a really long lens, or if you're getting a shot where you want one thing like really lit up, like it would be super cool if you were able to like pop the flash from like really far away and sync it in a way where you could get a shot that would be either impossible or really difficult or maybe really expensive to do any other way. So Davis, being Davis, built a prototype that makes it so you can use LoRa, this new long range protocol that everyone's interested in, to sync a speed light and basically to remotely fire the speed light from, well, we didn't really know how far away. So last night we got together and started working on an experiment to see exactly how far it would go. And the results, which I'll show a clip from, included us starting out with just syncing everything and making sure we can trigger one from the other. You see, we have multiple speed lights, and then walking down this street as far as we could until the speed light was no longer able to be triggered. So we were doing this in a super dense urban environment. There's lots of radio reflections. There's lots of radio sources. This is basically one of the worst case scenarios for this technology. But we did pick, a single street where we could see down relatively easily, and the results were pretty cool, honestly. Okay, that's different. Sorry, someone else was making a video too, dancing in the street. You'll have to go to their like TikTok to find that one. So holding this up and pointing the speed light down the street, we were able to get flashes from really far away. It was incredible, and the flash was super visible all the way down the street. So hopefully we'll get one where it's working. Um, but yeah, like being able to get, I can't give away the exact distance that we were able to get, but let's just say that using this setup, we were able to create something that could trigger flashes locally from really far away. So if you're a photographer, if you're someone who is interested in syncing anything really over a really long distance, we basically just proved that you can slap this new cool technology onto a lot of existing things and extend the range really far. And the episode that we're making around it, I think, is going to be really cool. Again, don't want to give too much about it away, but yeah, that's what I was up to a couple of days ago, and it was definitely cool. So after the conference, I got to get together with a bunch of other hackers and learn a lot, and that's why, again, like these sorts of hacking conferences are really great, and I highly recommend checking one out if you haven't been. Um, no way that drone dropped. Yeah, it turns out that hitting a palm tree with a any sort of DJI drone is really not good. And if you see a drone that's been down, then I have to recommend not trying to pick it up because the propellers are super sharp and go really fast, and they will cut you super badly. So if you do see a downed drone, I recommend perhaps maybe leave it alone for that one. Um, yeah, so when I say speed light, a lot of people thought that I was actually like changing like the traffic lights, but no. A speedlight is a particular type of flash that photographers use, usually that are able to be synced to each other in various ways. And they're something that I've used a lot in my background as a photographer. So being able to like trigger a light from really far away is, for one, a great demo, but also very useful for a number of different photography techniques. For example, if you've got like a very long lens, you're zooming way in to get like all this great compression, make things behind the person look very big. You could trigger a flash at night, as well as doing things with drones, which is another thing that we are exploring. So, yeah, there was a lot of stuff that I was up to this week. And of course, I'm also here to answer some questions. And one of them was talking about WPA3. So, I do want to touch on WPA3 because it is a very cool technology. And a lot of people that work with Wi Fi might not have heard of it just because WPA3, oops, there we go. Just because WPA3 is relatively recent, and I think that maybe like if you see it enabled, uh, you don't know like whether or not it's worth it to upgrade. So Wi-Fi Protected Access 3, the third edition, is something that came out. I'm not going to say like super recently, but the adoption has been slow. And I'm literally going to just pull up the Wikipedia page for this just to provide some context for what we're talking about. Um, Here we go. So there have been a couple of different versions of Wi-Fi protected access. First, we had WPA, and well, sorry, actually, technically, first we had WEP, Wired Equivalent Privacy, and this was not good. It was able to be cracked in about 15 minutes, super, super vulnerable, and this was found out pretty quickly. So we love WEP just because it's basically nothing. Most of the time, if you see a WEP network, it is a honeypot, so you probably shouldn't connect to it. But there are still some WEP networks out there. Maybe some person has just been running the same router on the default settings since they bought it forever, and that router just happens to be indestructible. So we do still see WEP, but WPA and WPA2 are the much more common standard. WPA was kind of rushed out as an intermediate measure once WEP was found to be very vulnerable. But there were still some problems with it. So WPA2 has become the most common type of authentication on just about every type of wireless Wi-Fi network that you'll see. And there are some networks that are moving towards WPA3, but I don't see them very often. And if you look at statistics from like wiggle.net, you can see that while WPA3 is increasing, it's just not enough of a factor for most people to be super aware of it. So what is the deal here? Like, why is WPA3 better? Well, the way that WPA2, the current and most common standard, authenticates a new device that's joining the network is the four-way handshake. And the four-way handshake includes a stage at which it sends a hashed version of the password um, to the device that's trying to connect. Basically, both devices hash the password and send like their version of the hash. And if it matches, then they can both prove that they know the same password. Then the client knows that it's a valid network that is using the same password, and the network knows that the client knows the password, and they can both agree that the client is allowed to connect. Now, that sounds great, but a hacker is able to potentially intercept that hashed version of the password and break it, especially if the password is not very secure. So if you pick a really bad password, then that means that WPA2 is incredibly vulnerable. And the assumption that users are going to make passwords really strong and secure for their Wi-Fi is just not really going to happen. It's not practical. So WPA 3 came out in 2018. So yeah, not that long ago, but considering the pandemic and everything, it feels like a lifetime ago. The Wi-Fi Alliance announced that WPA3 it was going to replace WPA2, and immediately one of my friends, Matthew Van Hoff, came out with a paper talking about the vulnerabilities of WPA3. So the reason why WPA3 is supposed to be better is it does a couple things that WPA2 does not do. One of them is it's able to protect someone that picks a bad password. So it uses like a elliptic curve cryptography, which is computationally more expensive, but it also means that if somebody picks a bad password, it's not as easy to brute force it. And it means that in theory, it should be harder for you picking a bad password to allow someone to break into your network. The attack against a bad password and a good password should be pretty expensive for an attacker in this case. There's also a problem with WPA2 where it's somebody connects to your network and just starts, oh, sorry, if somebody listens in on your network and stores the traffic and later on learns the Wi Fi network password, it means that they would be able to go back and decrypt all of the traffic that they had collected, which is really bad. With WPA3, they have supposedly solved this, which in theory means that you're supposed to have what's called forward secrecy. Uh, in cryptography, forward secrecy is a feature that means the keys will not be compromised, even if the long-term secrets used in the session key are compromised. So that means that your messages from the point before a hacker got access to that key would be secure. So even if messages afterwards were not, at least all that traffic that they had gathered before couldn't be decrypted and really used. So there's a lot of features here that make WPA3 really popular, and that's why a lot of people are trying to move to it. But it is heavier, and there are a lot of attacks against it. So I'm going to talk about a couple, and then I'm going to check back and see if we have any more questions because I don't want to spend too much time on WPA3 without doing like a deep dive into it. But one of the most popular attacks against WPA3 is simply exploiting the fact that it's a much heavier protocol. So because it's now doing this elliptic curve cryptography and it takes up a lot of resources, that means it's actually pretty easy to just like crash the router by sending it a bunch of requests. There's other ways of doing this to basically flood it with traffic, but one of the simplest attacks against WPA3 that I saw was just running the device out of resources because edge devices like routers or networking devices tend to not be like super powerful computers. You know, they're not like built to game. They're more like barely what they need to do the job that they have. So if you start asking them to do other things like calculating a bunch of encryption keys all at once, you can overwhelm a WPA3 device and cause it to basically not have enough memory or not have enough resources to properly authenticate devices that are trying to connect. So to me, that's kind of funny because, you know, the hackers just looked at how secure this algorithm was and was like, wow, that probably takes a lot of computational power. And then by finding ways of just forcing, you know, the router or another networking device to spend all that energy on computation, they can actually take it out of action by using up all its resources and preventing it from actually routing it. So if you're interested in this attack, you should check out Matthew Van Hoff. And in fact, I'll pull up his website. Matthew Van Hoff is one of my favorite Wi-Fi researchers, and he makes all of his research available for free on his website. You can download his publications, and for for a lot of like researchers, if you're looking for like good research papers, like it charges you to like download their work, which sucks, you know. But I would say that Matthew Van Hoff's papers tend to be very easy to read. They have a lot of juicy information, and a lot of them are quite interesting. So yeah, you can see I've already read like many of them. There's a bunch of purple links here. But if you're interested in the specifics of the attack that I mentioned, then please check this out. I think that's yep, here we go. So this was one of the first attacks against the handshake protocol for WPA3, Dragon Blood, attacking the Dragonfly handshake of WPA3. Um, do, do, do. And what was cool about this is this attack actually affected the way that this protocol was designed in the future. So after receiving this feedback, we'll call it from Matthew, there was some things added to WPA3 in the next version that was released that allows it to resist these sorts of attacks. So all the juicy details, exactly how many times you would have to flood it, like what types of attacks work, all that information is discussed here. As you can see, all the details you could ever possibly want. The high level is there's a lot of different attacks you could still do against this. They're not as easy as WPA2, but they do still allow you to do a lot of things that attackers want to do. So these are some of my favorite publications, so like addressing those sorts of attacks. So if you're infinitely curious about them, then there's infinite amounts of new Wi-Fi attacks happening. And some of my own research has been inspired by things I read in Matthew's papers. The Wi-Fi beacon frame attack, or the like beacon spammer, was based on looking at some vulnerabilities against WPA2 that are very common. So yeah, like I find this research to be very inspiring. There's lots of interesting details here, and it's all free. So yes, if you have more questions about that, highly recommend that you check it out because it is one of my favorite sources of information about Wi-Fi hacking stuff. All right, so I have probably about like 20 minutes left to go over this sort of stuff. I also um, almost just want to go through the sticker bag, but I can't. I'm going to be heading back to Montana starting next week, and I'm going to be doing more cool stuff at the Missoula Makerspace there. I taught a Wi-Fi self-defense class last, I think, oh my gosh, it was 2 weeks ago now. That was completely packed. It was super fun to meet everyone there and got a lot of awesome ideas. So if you're in the Missoula area, then I'll be back there teaching more free classes as a result. And I also, again, wanted to shout out, definitely make sure to check out the the content that's going to be coming out this week from the last conference, not Layer One, but before that, RSAC. So my favorite piece of content that we've made so far, which was my government sticker showdown. As you can see, I'm very passionate about the stickers in this community. Don't know if you can tell. That is going to be coming out soon, and I'm excited to share it because it is going to be really funny. Um, the CISA, I think, probably won for creativity this year, but the some of what the NSA brought was also a strong contender. So, yeah, no, I'm excited to go there. I also am excited to have Killian back on for our Friday stream. We haven't been able to do that for, yeah, like we weren't able to do it last week because I was traveling, but it's going to be fun this week. So, if you're going to be around for Friday, we're going to talk about all the hacker news that's happened in the last 2 weeks, not just one, and a lot of stuff has happened. So definitely stay tuned for that on Friday, where I also will presumably be on a different set and maybe will not look like I am being held hostage somewhere. So, all right. So, oh, here's another question. What is going to be after WPA3? Based on the level of iterations come out now, I think that it'll probably be a couple years before we see a major update to the versioning of Wi-Fi security. We're gonna, in my opinion, need to see something broken more substantially than it's been broken so far. So basically, if somebody finds like a really big underlying attack against WPA3, then I expect that maybe they'll do a new version, especially if it needs like a foundational facelift. Like if it's something where like they can't just change a couple things, it really needs the whole thing needs to be changed. If that happens, then it took WPA2 like 3 or 4 years after having like a devastating vulnerability discovered that just like fundamentally can't be fixed. So yeah, I think it'll be a while. I think that we're going to be on WPA3 for a while, and a lot of these like little tricky attacks like will probably bear fruit for quite some time. And as I was mentioning last time, part of the reason why Wi-Fi is so fun is it's all about convenience, right? So we have all these great security protocols and whatnot, but when it comes to like attacking a router or attacking a device that's using WPA3, more often than not, like it's running in some sort of mode that allows downgrading because if there's any sort of problem or any sort of issue, or if it's too slow, or if there's another network that's slightly faster or stronger, then it'll just downgrade itself and use WPA2, which has known vulnerabilities and it's easy to attack very, very easily. So most of the time when I talk to hackers, like Wi-Fi hackers about WPA3, they're just like, I barely deal with it, because there's the easiest attack against it is to downgrade and make it so that the device will automatically select a more vulnerable type of Wi-Fi. And we see this for everything, like when we're doing like Kerber roasting or like other sorts of attacks like inside of a network. Then like we're basically doing the same thing. We're trying to find the weakest possible protocol that the device will support. So as a hacker, yeah, like bringing that same mentality to Wi-Fi is exactly how you avoid some of these really tricky targets. Where like, why would you go up against encryption if you can do social engineering or something like that? So one of the things I was teaching with Wi-Fi self-defense was, you can have WPA3 on your network, but if somebody creates a phishing page that looks good enough and it looks like your router's updating, then they can still trick you into giving your password away. And because most people don't know exactly what their router update page looks like, this is still an attack that gets used over and over and over. It's very popular and it totally gets around the encryption, whether it's WPA2, WPA3, it doesn't really matter. So phishing attacks are still really easy. Downgrade attacks are still really easy. And that's why a lot of people haven't bothered to learn much about WPA3 hacking, just because like it's so easy to get around it. But I acknowledge there's interest. So I will talk more about some of the attacks you can do against WPA3, but just be prepared that none of them are as devastating as the attacks you can do against WPA2. Those are really bad. That's kind of why we had to make WPA3, was because the attacks were against WPA2 were so bad that it doesn't really make sense to continue using it as a standard for too much longer. So that would be my conclusion, I guess, kind of a high level one. It's not necessary too much to focus on WPA3 just because in most circumstances I can think of, there's going to be a way of attacking or downgrading to WPA2, unless that person has really set their network up to be secure, in which case, got a struggle ahead of you. So yeah, like I wouldn't worry too much about that particular protocol yet because there are so many more vulnerable ones that are still available to downgrade to. Um, let's see. Yeah, so one thing that you probably won't see, or at least I'm not sure if it supports, is I don't think you'll be able to join. This is a supposition. Actually, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if you'll be able to join some of these like WPA3 networks with like really lightweight microcontrollers, but maybe I'm wrong. I feel like I probably could be wrong with that. I just haven't seen. No, I think I'm wrong. I think I'm wrong. Never mind. I'm gonna have to double check that, but like part of the discussion about like how computationally expensive like joining a network can be with the little microcontroller or something like that. When we're talking Wi-Fi security, that's actually interesting to think about. I might take a look because making a little model demo of what WPA3 looks like, and then showing off the packets or something like that actually could be kind of fun, especially if I'm able to like simulate a device joining a WPA3 network. What I think currently though is that you can't create a WPA3 soft access point or like create like a pretend that your device is a router and offer up a WPA3 network on like a lightweight microcontroller. But if we could, then it would be interesting to see how many simultaneous attempts to connect to it takes to actually crash it. Because I think that that's one of the more interesting vulnerabilities to WPA3. All right, so that is most of the time that I have today. I just wanted again to shout out everybody who came up and talked to us at Layer One. Everybody who came to the after party as well. We met a lot of amazing, interesting people who, frankly, this is why I love going to hacking conferences. You could be teaching someone about soldering and then find out that they are a really cool AI expert or like interested in something that you've always wanted to talk about. So getting to exchange ideas with all of you, getting to do the stream, it's all something that I enjoy very much. So stay tuned on the Security Forward channel because we're going to be releasing more content cut from from RSAC, which again is really good, especially if you like my fixation on stickers. We're also going to be cutting more things from some of our previous streams that I think definitely deserve some attention. So stay tuned. And also, of course, if you want to support the stream, you can always go to varonis.com/Kody. That's Kody. It's a way you can let everyone there know that you appreciate the stream and you want it to keep going. And as always, I appreciate it very much, everyone who does that. So with that being said, can you contact me directly? Is it possible? Yes. So if you reach out to me on Twitter, it takes me a little bit to get back because I have a lot of messages on there, but it's usually the best way to do it. But also we have a Discord server, which I've mentioned several times. You can go, I think you can find it on just like myname.com, like if you want to look for that. But yeah, there's a couple of different ways you could reach out to me. Twitter's usually fine though. Like I get around to it. It's just I get a lot of requests for people who are doing some weird things. And hello, James. Sorry to surprise you on this one. Typically we do the stream a lot earlier, and I figure a lot of people are probably getting off work, or depending on where you are. It's getting that way towards where we are on the West Coast. But like I got to do it. Today, the culprit is the computer. It's been doing an angry Mac OS sigh and turning itself off a couple times, but we got through. We got through this one, and I think overall we did a decent job. So, see everybody on the Friday stream when we talk all about the news over the last couple of weeks, and hopefully we've got Killian back after his vacation, as it were. So, all right, everyone, I will see all of you on Friday, and always fun to chat. Goodbye.